Right. We are live. Welcome to the EOS Podcast, my EOS friends. Today we have Sam. Sam's with Worbli, and he's one of the co-founders of Worbli. We're going to talk about Worbli, sidechain, sister chains, and general EOS. So Sam, go ahead and introduce yourself. Welcome to the show.
No, thanks for having me. It's nice and warm here in Australia. But long story short, Dominic and Craig and Rob, the three other co-founders of Worbli, we've been on this mission for, I don't even know, it's November, 11 months now. And our token is now live. You can purchase the tokens on Chainrift, and we launched our blockchain on the 1st of this month. So as Worbli goes, really exciting. But we are the first, I suppose, financial services district that we're coining on blockchain. We're using EOS.io code, so we're a sister chain of EOS mainnet, and this is giving us all of the features and benefits that EOS possesses. That we can then provide services to end users like us, our friends, our parents, our family. But also to developers and to businesses in order to build really powerful applications leveraging EOS.io software. And I suppose the unique piece about Worbli is we are regulated, we're compliant, and with that in mind, all of our users are going to be verified users. We aren't an anonymous chain. And that's probably where we draw the line in the sand is, look, we get it. We are all decentralists at heart. But we also understand that it's not to achieve what we want to achieve with blockchain. It's just incredibly difficult being a truly decentralized chain with complete anonymity. Businesses are going to find it really challenging to work with within those environments.
Yeah, and anonymity is it works to an extent, but also as far as being anonymous goes, the other side, we're an open book. People know corporations know far more about us sometimes than we know about ourselves, and so to hold on to anonymity as this end all be all is kind of a fallacy in my opinion. And there's some places where, okay, I'm going to keep control of my identity and release the parts that need to be released because we need trust, and that's part of trusting each other is knowing who each other are, how we act, what our track record is. So yeah,
but it's also on that how a lot of what Worbli is striving to achieve is financial services, and that comes down to banking, that comes down to insurance, lending, mortgages, finance. The list goes on and on and on. And with anonymity, you can only achieve so much. Someone isn't going to insure me based on a username and whatever kind of history that third parties can gather on me. Insurers need to know what do I wear glasses or not? Because if maybe that can affect the premiums that I pay, and it just doesn't improve. Anonymity doesn't provide users with a better solution, a better service than we have today. And that's where there's cases for it, but for what we want to achieve, anonymity just doesn't work. But at the same time, we empathize with those people that do want that. And over time, maybe Worbli can provide services for those people that do want that. Just immediately, it's just not going to be the right chain for them. But it comes down to businesses do need to know who you are, but do they need to know everything? And do they have the right to hold all of your data and have access to that data? That's where we're drawing the line and saying no. Users need to have more control of their personal data. Not only if businesses use it to market to, that's a whole different kettle of fish. There's really cool apps coming around, me monetizing my data. But it actually just comes down to my date of birth, where I live, all of the intricacies around me and my identity. I need to keep that secret to me, but I can share it with third parties who I want to do business with. And that's really the philosophy and the sentiment around Worbli is, yes, we are KYC, AML, and there's identification layer, but that is controlled by the user. The user just enables the third party access to specific parts of their identity to enable them to do business with them.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it is something where Worbli is giving people the opportunity to hold their KYC AML data and then release it to individuals that they choose. Is that how it works?
In long story short, yes. The processes and the way that the data is stored and the way that data is released in encrypted formats, that's you just lost your camera. Nice photo of you. All of that is. Have I lost you?
Sorry about that. Little technical difficulty there.
No, that's right. You can cut that bit out. And,
yeah, that's easy. So you said that the way that it works is that, I don't know. Okay. We'll start again. So the way that it works is that you have basically black box this identity so that it can go out to other users, or users can choose who it goes out to. Is that right?
Yeah, essentially that's, we haven't built the full end-to-end journey of how that data is shared with those third parties, but in the sentiment of what you're saying, absolutely. Me having the ability to share my date of birth with a business just because that business requires me to be over 18. Like, they don't need to know where I live, my name, all of those details. They just need to know. They might not even need to see my date of birth. As long as that business knows that Worbli has the documentation to prove that user is over 18, should, at any stage, that need to be proved. That's the sentiment of what we're building. And I suppose the building blocks of how that data gets shared, where that data is stored, at this moment, we're still working through the intricacies around that. And I know it's a lot of people are asking, how are we storing that data? Is it GDPR compliant? So on and so forth. One, GDPR compliance is super important, and we need to comply with GDPR compliance because the fines are so great, and it's not only for ourselves but for other applications on the network. It's just the intricacies around how that works. We'll be updating the community in due course. Can't give a specific time frame on it, but obviously it's at the top of our to-do list.
What's GDPR stand for? I haven't heard of that.
So GDPR is the General Data Protection Regulation Act in Europe, and it all, long story short, it comes down to how businesses use consumer data. Around privacy, data protection. Essentially, have I opted in to receive marketing communications from you? If I haven't, you are not allowed to market to me. If your database as a business, if your database gets hacked and compromised, similar to British Airways around 6 to 8 weeks ago, I think it was, millions of accounts compromised and I suppose user information. The fines, if you're compromised and you don't comply with GDPR, you can have the fines are 2% of your future revenue. So British Airways,
that's amazing.
Hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds that they are, potentially up for, through to this. So GDPR is super important, but it's also super complicated because you need to have the ability to delete someone's data. So does blockchain work with GDPR? Mm-hmm. Not necessarily. Mm-hmm. And these are some of those intricate details that a lot of people are working to find some really good solutions for. And I can only say that the first solution won't be the last. There will be some pretty incredible evolutions of this technology that we'll see, certainly when it comes to GDPR, but for everything.
Yeah, and to be honest, blockchain and EOS specifically has really given me a lot of faith in the community's ability to figure out these really hard ideas. I used to hear some of these really hard ideas like an identity solution or these things and think, there's some things we just won't be able to do. But as I've seen all these baby steps towards fixing these huge issues that seem almost unsolvable, nothing sounds impossible at this point. So
I suppose the the thing with blockchain is it enables a lot of these decisions to be made based on logic. My background as a marketer and as a salesperson is it's all around finding the right value exchange between two parties. And if party A can pay someone and party B is happy with that, then a deal can be done. What we're able to do is now to break up, in order to get a deal done, how many different things do we need to achieve along the way? What blockchain enables in certainly in my opinion and with the ecosystem that I'm working is, it all comes down to logic. Is it logical? If this, then that. I'm not a developer, but one thing I've certainly spent the last 12 months learning is how developers think. And that's what's really opened my mind and enabled a lot of these ideas in the back of my mind, in the back of my head, to actually become real ideas and logical ideas because of the blockchain, really, and smart contracts and regarding contracts. Certainly on EOS, all of these different points, which can all be automated, it can achieve so much efficiency. And with that efficiency, like we know, we can eradicate third parties because we do not need third parties. And that's just where it gets exciting, is when you know what can be achieved. You just need to build out the user journey and the user flow, and obviously the user flow then translates to something different under the technology, was where the developers make it happen.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I've had a big shift probably the last 2 years, basically digging in deeper and hanging around engineers so often, and they've shifted the way I think, like you were saying, to this, where I'm kind of a hyper creative and more of a, like you, a marketer and an entrepreneur, and then but shifting towards this more logical way of thinking a lot of the times is made me think differently. It's pretty cool. And one of the things that it enables is the possibility of these just outrageously big ideas, because when you don't think about how big the idea is, you just think about the logical steps that it would take to make it happen. Then all of a sudden, it's not this giant problem. It's just a set of steps that logically make sense. And I think the best example of that, recently, I listened to Elon Musk on Joe Rogan. So awesome. Joe's like digging in
the famous interview.
Yeah, exactly. The famous interview. Yes. He's digging into him about, he's saying, Elon, how are you doing this? Like, you want to dig tunnels underneath Los Angeles and, create a whole new highway under the earth. And Elon's just like, well, Joe, it's just a hole. We're just digging a very big hole in the ground, and digging holes isn't that hard. We've been doing it for a long time, and it's like, that's how engineers kind of approach things. It's so logical. The size of the idea doesn't necessarily matter. What are the steps to get there?
I suppose you just look at one of the projects, or there's a number of projects that Worbli are working on, which are big. They are big projects. They're daunting, and people go, shit, that's how are you going to do that? One of those is, our goal of reinventing banking, or reinventing the bank. Even charities, for example. Why try, like banking in Australia, like it is around the world, there's legacy systems. There's tens of thousands of people running those legacy systems. There's all of the operations and the processes that these big businesses already have ingrained in the way they work. If we were to do this, like, we were to try and get a big bank on board, you'd have to go in. There's possibly a 4, 5, 6 year process, not only process of, making the technology work, but the sales cycle, to actually get these things signed off by the right people. And blockchain is deemed as high risk, as volatile. It's unknown. A lot of people are uneducated on. So why is a CEO or a CTO of a big bank ever going to make a decision to, go head over heels for blockchain? It's almost corporate suicide.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously they could become a number one CEO in the world by making that decision if it goes well. But in 3 months' time, if someone doesn't get it, they're gone. And it just for us, and I think for people within the blockchain, the first mindset is, let's not fix it. Let's redefine it. And by redefining it, it's where minds like you and I can come together with these, big ideas, whiteboard ideas, and go, well, a bank, what is a bank? It's about keeping your money safe. It really should be about just storage, a safe, a vault. That's what banks were back in the day. But now they're all encompassing. Their home loans, their car finance, there's life insurance, the list is endless. So what if we were to build just a consumer facing bank, which had storage, it had the ability to send money from A to B, borderless. It enabled you to receive money. And maybe one of the features of this new bank is you can actually receive money in 4 different currencies. So Brandon, when you pay me, I might just decide to say, hey, I want 25% in Bitcoin, 25% in Australian dollars, because that's just what I want, 25% in EOS, and 25% in Worbli. Why can't that be a prerequisite of what a bank is? Whereas at the moment, you'd have to send me $1,000 in Australian dollars. By the time it gets to me, it's probably $977. Then I have to send that to an exchange to buy Bitcoin, to then buy EOS or Worbli or whatever that horrible process is, an expensive process. So there's immediate features and benefits which can be realized. And I think fortunately is with the talent that is within the EOS community, but also the broader blockchain community, there's a lot of people who know how to make this happen. The technology is there to enable this to happen, but it's really around connecting the dots. And my perspective on all of the technology out there at the moment, 80% of the technology being built, interoperability through to, or atomic swaps, whichever one you want to call it, through to security protocols, through to, even identity, specific tools around identity management. I see these as what I would call developer tools. These are the widgets or the tools that developers would use to combine to create a bank. We talk about mass adoption and widespread adoption. We haven't hit it because the technology is just too bloody complicated. There's registering a private key. If I can't do it, how's my mum and dad going to do it? How's my best mate in the countryside in England who's down the pub, rather than, he doesn't even know what a cryptocurrency exchange is. Like, how are they going to actually get into crypto? It just needs to be humanized, but also using the best in class around user experience, user design, and user interface. And is it on the the immediate horizon? 3 to 6 months. I think we'll see some really cool projects in 3 to 6 months. I think we'll see some really, really well thought out ideas and products and services. But I feel those ideas are going to the EOS community, the general blockchain and cryptocurrency community, we will be the first adopters of those new technologies. And then it will probably take another 6 to 12 months for that really to flow on into our first, second, third degree networks. It's a really exciting time, but as a marketer, I'm just looking at the features and benefits, and it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
Of what, and I talk about Worbli, I talk about EOS, but just in general, what blockchain can achieve, it is overwhelming when you do list out the features and benefits.
Yeah, you mentioned basically Worbli building a suite of bank widgets type of concept. I think that's a great way to conceptualize it, because there's all these siloed things that banks do, and you can approach each of them individually with an app that's specific to that. Do you see the Worbli's dApp developers coming in and building kind of banking centric types of dApps, or do you see them coming in and building all kinds of random dApps on Worbli?
It's a good question. It's a few conversations I've had recently is what kind of products and dApps will be built on Worbli? The way I explain it is, let's just talk about the first 6 months. I see the first 6 months being that fundamental foundation, those foundation applications that businesses in general will need. And the first one is a bank account, just simply somewhere where me as a blockchain or cryptocurrency business anywhere in the world can store our business funds safely. Maybe they're insured, maybe it's a custodial wallet. And then there may be remittance, a remittance piece of technology. There could be payroll. There could be accounting services. Honestly, there's so many intricate kind of financial widgets or individual applications that can be built. But when they're combined, that's when it gets really powerful. And I think what's exciting, what maybe I envisage, not 6 to 12 months, but after 6 months, when these core pieces of financial services technology have been created, an e-commerce store could easily leverage Worbli's e-commerce payment gateway. Not necessarily, when I say Worbli's e-commerce payment gateway, there could be 7 or 8 different apps or different suppliers within Worbli that could provide that service. And how that will look on, how you can just check out with PayPal. The idea is you can check out with Worbli, and you don't have to use Worbli tokens. You can actually use any tokens. But the idea is that the Worbli as a single sign-on is what could be really, really powerful, and bridging that gap to enable people to use cryptocurrency as a form of value exchange with the real world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one of those bridges that's going to be huge when people are easily able to, with very little friction, spend cryptocurrency for online purchases. That's going to be a game changer. I mean, the ICO Alert guys had a really insightful show about PayPal and how PayPal was finally adopted. It was when they connected to people's emails and made it as easy as sending an email, and then they basically gained adoption because they tagged onto something that was already so commonly used. And so being able to tag onto something really commonly used would be absolute game changer.
Yeah, and the other great thing with PayPal, and it's also one of the key kind of marketing mechanics which has put Uber in so much debt. Like, we're using PayPal and Uber. Mm-hmm. PayPal did it I say they did it first. There's possibly someone who did it better, or maybe PayPal just did it better, but it was what I call a friend get friends acquisition campaign. Mm-hmm. I give you $10 when you register, you get that $10 credited, and I get $10 credited. So it's literally I'm paying you to sign up new users. Uber have done that, incredibly well. That's really how Uber became one of the most downloaded applications in the world for God knows how many years. I was one of the first users of Uber in Australia, I think 5.5 years ago. Wow. And it was when they first they put their technology in taxis, like in their, now the arch nemesis. Yeah. They seeded their technology with taxis. Giving taxis another income opportunity. Wow. But from a user perspective, it's all, referrals. And at the end of the day, it works. And Worbli will be doing referral campaigns in the future. I don't know how many tokens we may reward you and the person that you're recruiting, but we will be running campaigns which do incentivize people to get their friends and family into this really exciting environment, because they will benefit from the technology in the future. Mm-hmm. Will they benefit from it in the next 6 or 12 months? Maybe. It depends how dirty they want to get their hands with the technology, and how much they really want to learn. But the idea is, after 12 months, that we don't even use the word blockchain or cryptocurrency. It's just a really cool mobile application where it may just still say dollars, like you're transacting in dollars, and then we do all of the hard work on the back end. Like, that's what the goal is, and that's what the dream is. We shouldn't be asking people, I don't know, to write down transaction ID, or all of the stuff that is a barrier to entry in crypto and blockchain. We just need to eradicate, and we need to make the tech work harder for the end user.
Yeah, from a UX standpoint, that brings up the example of credit card adoption. When it first hit, people were kind of not using them that often, and no one knew what was happening behind the scenes. all you knew as a user is one day you showed up to the gas station and you could swipe your credit card and you did it and it worked really easy, and and everything changed. People just, if it becomes so easy, they don't have to know everything that's going on in the background. And so
I suppose it's like when the stop loss was invented, like the first person who ever's used this kind of tech, they press the stop loss, they go to bed and they wake up and it's worked, and then they use it again and again and again, and they actually start using it in their lifestyle, and in, I suppose, in the way that they live, because it actually increases efficiency, it increases performance, and it's just a better user experience. And that's really the credit card. Once you, like, I don't know what it's like in your side of the world, but in Australia, we've got something called PayPass. I don't know, you might call it something different in the States, but we've got PayPass. It's just simply tap and go. And I know in the UK, they don't use their credit cards. I think the UK is a huge user in NFC payment technology on mobile phones. Just when I was there for the hackathon the other week, I've never seen so many people just walking around, they literally tap their phone like that and it's done. Literally half a second.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I don't use my phone to pay for things because whilst I've got the technology, I've got all the Amex and Samsung Pay and all of that installed. I don't use it because it's not convenient for me yet. Maybe I don't trust it.
Yeah, we have NFC here, and I see people use it, but it's not very often. And I think I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I could pretty easily probably start making it happen, but yeah, maybe part of me is worried about having my credit cards attached to everything on my cell phone. But yeah, I mean, that's clearly the future,
Yeah. And that also comes back to, having things attached to your cell phone. And I'd really love to see some security, like certainly for two-factor authentication, certainly for private key storage, because there's everyone's got an opinion on how to store your private keys. And there isn't necessarily an authority, and I'm not sure if there should be an authority, but there isn't an authority for a new user to find out the best way to even store their private key, because everyone's got an opinion. And that's also I think one of the big challenges with the industry in a whole, because there's too many opinions. And I know from my days in running many competitions, campaigns around user acquisition, is if you give someone too many choices, they get overwhelmed and they leave. If there's a menu with, I'd say Chinese restaurants, but, Chinese restaurants, generally, they might have 145 different line items on the menu. You could look at that and go, too complicated, I don't want to make that decision. Whereas if you give them 3 options, it's either the chicken, the pork, or the vegetarian, then it's pretty easy. You got 3 choices. You're one of 3. And at the moment, there isn't an authority giving people, I don't think, the best advice when it comes to private key storage, when it comes to should you use a Trezor or a Nano Ledger or any of these new pieces of technology. And because we're in such a risk, well, I say a risk averse, but also we're high risk at the same time because there's hackers out there. An authority, a trusted authority would be great to have as learning resources on just basic standard protocol and standard processes within this new world of taking accountability for your finances.
Yeah. And I love the analogy, that kind of decision paralysis with menus. And one of my favorite thinkers, Nassim Taleb, he actually talks about that. He says that he either copies someone else at the table, or if he doesn't see someone he's going to copy, he just picks randomly for the menu, because
I ask the server to tell me what's the best on the menu. I'll go for that.
Great call.
If it's too big, because my missus and friends, I'm indecisive and I procrastinate, just as a ADHD. And I think that's also what's got me so far in blockchain, is the ability to use that to my advantage to focus. Ironically, but the data is overwhelming. That a choice of 3 options perform, if not twice as better as 7 options.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So, I mean, you bring up a really valid point there as far as security goes and private keys. It would be a great service for some sort of trusted figures in the community to kind of put out a top 3 best ways to, secure your private keys. And
I think it would be good for a group of, I don't know. I like the idea of collaboration. I feel that you can achieve a lot more by collaborating, and also by bringing the right minds together who can compromise and put forward really good solutions for end users, because we're seeing, and I'll raise an exciting project is EOS Links. These guys have seen an amazing, and albeit Fred and the guys have done brilliantly with almost zero marketing. And I think they've surpassed 15,000 users or 15,000 downloads of their wallet. That's great, but how are we going to get 15,000 people outside of this current community to download it? This is where I feel that we do need to start tailoring our communications, tailoring the words that we use in the rhetoric to really suit for the lay person. Because one thing that we can easily get carried away with is talking like we would at an EOS hackathon to our friends and family.
For sure.
And it's so easy to just forget that your best mate, whilst he sees you posting all these videos, he watches them and goes, what are you on about? And that's where this person isn't going to take a risk on getting on blockchain, because it is still up in the clouds. They still just don't understand just the use case. And also they hear the mainstream media talking shit all the time.
Yeah.
Or, I'd say talking shit all the time. I say talking shit on Monday and then singing its praises on a Tuesday. Like, it's confusing.
Yeah, for sure. And that the words that we use and starting to think about directing that towards more of the non-integrated community out there, the people who aren't necessarily studying this, is a huge point. And something I was talking about with Gunnar Pope at the hackathon was just even something as simple as the private key, public key, user key, active key is like, why those don't necessarily make sense, like why isn't one, it almost, I mean, there's words I think out there that people are used to using that might work better. I mean, for the private key, it could be just like master secure password, or like things that people actually understand. Like, this is your master secure password. Like, you clearly don't want to lose this because it's, it's important. But like private key, who knows, So there's a lot of names out there. Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. It's the amount of time. Do you know what that example of a master secure password? It says to the user, the goal is, the objective is for the user, do not give it to anyone and do not lose it.
Yeah, it says it in the name.
Whereas a key is like, where am I putting this key? Is it a USB key? Is it a security key? Is it, what is it? And if you think about you're just your best mate, again, use your best mate or your mum as like a testing. Use them to test on, certainly terminology. If your best mate still goes, what is a master secure password? If he's going, well, how is it different to like my password or security questions? We need to be able to, I suppose, give them a really, really simple answer to say, it's safe. Don't give it to anyone. And I mean anyone. It's like, would you give anyone your PIN code for your bank card? No. Treat it the same way.
Yeah.
But it's obviously, it's a little bit more complicated because it's bigger. And that's the other thing, is there is a lot more complexity. But maybe there could be some really cool tools created in the future which do manage people's, all of their keys. And I don't know, it's using biometric. It's Fort Knox. So you just can't get into it unless you've got your DNA. maybe it's DNA. I don't know. You can't get sweat from DNA, because I learned that from Making a Murderer. You can't get DNA from sweat. But I don't know. Technology is improving, and if it can achieve these things, it will enable what we say mass adoption. It will enable increased, a more efficient adoption.
Yeah, and I think the password thing is a big part of people feeling nervous. It's this feeling of not understanding something that holds all your money, and knowing that there's a lot of really intelligent hackers out there who are waiting for you to make a mistake. It's like a lot of people don't want to dip their toe into that water, So
yeah, well, they certainly don't, and to that point, they don't want to dip in their toe into the water where their funds or their assets are at risk of being lost. And I've not, touch wood, I've not sent any transactions to any wrong addresses thus far. But I know people that do. I know people that have been hacked, as I'm sure you know a number of people who have been hacked, and their funds are all gone. What's going to change the game is having an insured wallet where you can, because in a bank account, certainly I know in the UK, talking to my folks, is one of the bank accounts that they've got. If you've got let's just say you've got £100,000 in that bank account, so I think £75,000 of that 100,000 in that specific bank account is insured. And that's where, they would actually create 5 of these bank accounts, to ensure they'd have 75 in each single one. It's kind of stupid that you have to go and create 5 accounts to make sure your money is secure. If the blockchain world and the crypto world are able, and this is obviously what Worbli is working toward, is an insured wallet to enable your coins to be insured. Should they get hacked, or should they, I don't know, whatever scenario, but as a user who isn't in blockchain, for me to put any money into blockchain, if I know that it can be stolen, hacked, or lost by a single character being wrong, I'm going to say, sorry, not bothering, see you later, I'm staying with fiat. Like, literally, fuck that.
Yeah.
That is literally, that's the words that are going to come out of their mouth, or it's going to be the voice in their head. If we can tell them that their wallet is insured for up to 1 million Worbli or up to 100,000 EOS or whatever that may be, and there are underwriters on the other end who are providing terms and conditions on how that wallet is insured, then it's kind of a no-brainer. Like, you can take control of your finances, and if my phone was to get stolen, or I don't know, if it was to get stolen, or I was to lose all my keys, or I don't know, these variables, variety of scenarios, if we can actually insure and protect someone's assets, that's what makes it an easy decision to trial at the first instance. It's like, well, sod it. Let's put a couple of $100. Let's transfer a couple £100 or dollars into this to buy XYZ tokens so I can play games online. And I know that money in that wallet is actually secure. I don't need to worry about it.
Yeah.
That's a dream, right?
It's almost that the concept should be more that blockchain creates more security and more safety for your funds than the common banking industry. More freedom to move the money around, but also more security. So
yeah, there's also more accountability. I think on there is, and the thing is that accountability is shifted from me being accountable, or my bank being accountable to me. I am now accountable to me, because I have control over my funds, my wealth, my assets. Whereas at the moment, my bank, unfortunately, I look out onto 3 different banks in Melbourne. And unfortunately, the banks over here are some of the most there's been a royal commission into the banks. Basically, they've been invoicing dead people.
Wow.
And they've knowingly not stopped those processes. But that's just literally the tip of the iceberg. There's so much been going on in the last 24 months that there's a lot of distrust in the banking world. And if we can provide similar features and benefits to the banks, such as insuring wealth, insuring your assets, then that's just I feel it's a quick win. I feel it's providing end users with comfort and security that enables them to trial this and start learning about this, I suppose, this new way of working.
So do you see that as one of Worbli's main initial places to try to penetrate the market is through insurance, like insuring accounts?
Yeah, insurance as a whole, absolutely. I would love to reinvent insurance markets and the way insurance is decided upon. But one of the first things we are going to be working on to get up and running is an insured wallet. understand it can otherwise be called a custodian wallet. But yeah, that's absolutely one of the key things, and rebuilding insurance from the ground up. The reason the reason I can't get a discount for having a dash cam in my car 24/7, insurers don't give me a discount in Australia for having that. It's actually providing them with all of the information they need to know about the event that happened where I may be claiming money. So it's actually providing them with the proof. The insurance companies don't have a box to tick, to say Sam has a dash cam. They don't have a box to tick there to then lower my premium. They just don't have the processes in place, or maybe the data points to analyze how much discount they should provide. I think it's pretty bloody obvious, really, because if it increases the amount of information they have about a claim, it could increase their I don't know whether it's their payout rate, or whether it was a verified claim, it could increase the verified claims by 50%, hypothetically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Insurance companies we see it today can't do that, and that's why we need to, I suppose, redefine them moving forward, and that really goes for every industry.
So insurance is a big one, and what's the kind of big picture plan to become integrated within? I know that they're even on the roadmap is developing relationships with U.S. governance bodies. I mean, that's a pretty big scope of goals there. What's kind of the steps to get that far along?
Yeah, when we talk, and it's probably clear, when we talk about governments, US governments, British government, I think they've got enough on their hands with Brexit at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that will present some pretty incredible opportunities for blockchain in the future. Mm-hmm. This is I actually haven't seen any articles or any talks about Brexit and the knock-on effect to blockchain. Actually, I haven't seen much about that. So that's an interesting topic to cover. But when it comes to like US government, the SEC, what we mean is we'll be lobbying. We'll be making relationships within these governments to have preferential bills passed on blockchain. Honestly, I'm not the right person to talk about the intricacies, but we have a team. We have lobbyists working with us very close to Worbli that can enable us to get to the right people within the government. Because at the end of the day, there's government and there's blockchain, and there's not much kind of, I say there's not much collaboration, but there's more resistance than there is acceptance. The goal is to have the government accepting what this industry is doing, more so over time. Are they ever going to be all in 100% and allowing a decentralized world with decentralized technology? That's unlikely. There's going to be friction there, but it just comes down to, we need to educate, we need to inform, and we need to, I suppose, evangelize what the features and benefits are for end users. And where it does get exciting is when you look at third world countries, who they own a mobile phone and nothing else. They can't borrow money, and if they could borrow $5 to buy twice as much material to then create produce to sell, because now they're connected to the internet. When you think about what the work is we need to do with governments, I think it is around education and on maybe even how blockchain can enable their communities to make more money, in part increasing their GDP. Mm-hmm. I don't know, but this is what needs to happen. These are the kind of constructive conversations that need to be I suppose, that need to be had at that level.
Yeah.
But it's I suppose it's also something we just need to have those conversations. You cannot ignore them, and there is compromise to be found, and it will take time. But that's what we'll be working towards. And that's what I suppose it's our duty to be representing the community, how they want to be represented too. So it's not just Worbli, going out there with our own rhetoric and our own prerogative. We'll be going there with, if the community want fully decentralized insurance, and the government are saying no, then it's our duty to try and work out how we can achieve that. And if it means, there's some chains out there which can do it completely decentralized off the grid without the need for government, there's a market for that. But that market is, hypothetically, it's 5%, because there's 5% of people that are happy to trust the decentralized market. But I tell you what, my mum and dad, my mates, my teachers, my friends, my ex-colleagues or whatever, they're not in that 5%. However, I know a lot of people in this industry that are within that 5%. And at the end of the day, we respect that, because we'd like to be in that 5% if we could, but it's just not realistic. That's just, I suppose, a marketer's approach to it, is going, it's an awesome dream, but it's just not realistic to go mainstream.
Yeah.
Certainly now, at least in the next 20 years, I would foresee.
Oh, wow. That's a long time out. Well, I mean, there's an interesting adoption model. You mentioned the third world countries so before the cell phone and before everyone was on the internet on their cell phone, people in the first world countries, everyone had laptops. And so everyone got used to being on the internet and engaging through their laptop. In the third world countries, those were expensive. They didn't necessarily have access to them. So they were starting to be left behind. Once cheap internet hit cell phones, they skipped the entire laptop and PC era. Yeah. And they leapfrogged it, and they went straight to cell phones, and they adopted internet on cell phones like much more rapidly and pervasively than Western or not Western, but first world countries. So with banking, it's almost possibly the same model, where the banking industry as it stands has left them behind. So it seems that they would grasp at this the same way that cell phones grasp at something like Worbli and be a huge adopter. Well,
we've got great relations. One of our block producers is EOS Nairobi. The guys down there are fantastic, and we hypothesize around these initiatives. They're getting these initiatives into play. We've got a number of strategic advisors and people within the Worbli ecosystem that have very, very good ties to Africa. I say the continent. So many different areas. Gold mines in Africa. Tokenization of mines. There's the ability for remittance, processing, which is certainly in third world countries. A lot of expat staff will send their money from wherever they're working back to their family, friends, cousins. And if there's a 5% clip on every ticket, that's 5% that isn't getting to the person it's supposed to be. And personally, one of our philosophies is to eradicate unneeded and unrequired third-party fees, but also the third parties themselves. If they are just there for a clip, piss off. Like that's what blockchain, literally, that's what blockchain does. That's what it enables. And if this, these additional fees, albeit 2, 3, 4, 5%, that's meaningful, and it's meaningful enough for people to change habits. Maybe upgrade their technology to a better smartphone or something that may be more connected. At the end of the day, it's an investment. It's an investment in time, and it's an investment in change. If you change your routine and you spot an opportunity, then you will see a return on that investment. And maybe that just means that you can have more control of your assets somewhere in Africa. It means that for me to pay my cousin who's in a different country, South Africa, sending money up to Zimbabwe, it's a very challenging process. From my understanding, some of the methods they use is they give a bus driver cash, and that bus driver is literally entrusted to give the cash to someone at the other end.
Wow.
How's that fair?
Yeah.
How does that person not have the same benefits as us? And I used to be a person who would say, do you know what? I don't give a shit about that. I'm living in my bubble, in my world. But I suppose I've also been on the other end of banks saying no to me for borrowing money because I'm self-employed. And it's like, hold on. If I'm getting so uptight and annoyed about the process affecting me, what about people who literally have almost nothing, or they don't have any leverage? And that's the thing, is when you don't have leverage, you just got to succumb and go with what's out there.
Yeah.
And I just feel we've got an opportunity to use this technology to enable some transfer of wealth. I just feel that's what I feel. Certainly it's within Worbli's philosophy to do it properly. We're not, as I said, our tokens are for sale on Chainrift. We haven't done an ICO. We're not raising, 50 million, $70 million up front, albeit that's what we initially planned to do and discuss back in January. I think we're planning to raise tens of millions of dollars to end up buying a bank and getting our licenses. At the end of the day, that's us conforming to the traditional means of doing a bank. We should look at ways of recreating it. And that's where we actually stepped back away from a product and built a protocol and built a network that all of these types of businesses can be built upon. And thankfully to EOS and, the open source, the license that they've got, a lot of the hard work was already done with their software to enable that. We've just had to, split off. We're a sister chain. So we've had to split off and create our own ecosystem with our own rules, our own block producers, but also the rules and the processes around those block producers and how they are selected. Because it's not a decentralized selection process. Worbli are making a centralized decision on who we work with. Because to keep that momentum up, we need a really strong and diverse team of partners. And that's, I suppose, also how we look at all of our block producers and strategic partners. Everyone is incentivized equally. And when you're incentivized equally, collaboration is not a hindrance. It's actually an opportunity to bring the best minds together and create the best app on the market. So that's certainly what we're trying to foster. And the beneficiaries of that are just end users and businesses. And hey, you know what? Maybe governments will benefit in the future. And if it means that our tax can be, I'm not averse to paying tax personally. I don't like the idea, but I just don't want people knocking on my door. So, I pay it. And I know a lot of people will also disagree with that. They say, you're weak, you shouldn't pay it, you should stand up for your rights. But it's like, do you know what? I don't want the hassle. But paying 50, 60% tax in some countries, 40, 30% tax. Imagine if a country could have all of the data to say, we'll just tax you through the blockchain a fixed 10%, GST or VAT. And there's no hiding from it. You just pay 10% on everything. Personally, I think that's just easy. It's just an easy way of life, and everyone's paying the same, and so on and so forth. But it's not going to work like that. But what blockchain can enable, I suppose, it can enable you to think around new methods and new ways of making it fairer. Because the reason people don't like paying tax is governments aren't very accountable. They can't justify where that money is spent. The money is usually given to third parties who are questionable. I think a $400 million grant was given to a business in Queensland, which are there to save the Great Barrier Reef. 6 people in the business, I think they got $500 million grant.
Wow.
And I think the facts are wrong there, but 6 people, way too much money. And if that's taxpayer money, the government aren't being transparent in their decision-making processes in the way that money is released to them. Even how much money is released over I suppose a specific time period, if it's released in stages. Public don't have that transparency, and I think it's about time we had that transparency. The technology is there, and generally that's one of the main reasons people do not like the way governments operate, is because they are in their own bubble. There is no accountability, there is no transparency. However, they're free to take all of our money. It's in the law to take all of our money, but yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I mean, the U.S. government famously lost $1 trillion or maybe even $2 trillion. Yeah. So, and then I was just like, oops, we don't know where it went. It's okay. I can't imagine the lack of transparency getting any more egregious than something like that. It's just, there's no accountability for where the tax money is spent.
And that's actually one of the things that Worbli really, I suppose, is at the heart, is making people, businesses more accountable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm more accountable now for my finances for XYZ. A bank will be more accountable to providing better customer service and providing better services. An application would be more accountable for securing user data, because if user data gets leaked, hey, it's easy to find out where it gets leaked from. It's easy to kind of, you know, backtrack thanks to the blockchain. It's easy to backtrack and make people be more accountable. And that's what I'm excited about, is more accountability means that the user, the customer, is now going to be put first again, hopefully first over profits. And that's just all of those ideas. There's so many incredible ways that you can combine all of this to create something really, really cool. And that's certainly what we're fostering.
Yeah. And the hopeful part of this is that, to me, it seems like we're now on a one-way street towards, even if it's little steps at a time, like once these transparency and blockchain tools get put in place, they're going to stay there. They should be resilient, you know, and it might take a long time to get there, but it doesn't seem like we're going to get less transparent. It seems like we're at the, you know, we swung all the way to one direction of the pendulum, and we're going to start coming back slowly. So,
yeah, I definitely agree. You know, there's full transparency. Again, it's not realistic.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you know, I'd like you know, us users having all of their banking transactions made transparent. That's bloody stupid.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's dangerous. So there's going to be evolutions of what transparent actually means. You know, maybe these words will be redefined within blockchain. Transparent means you're accountable. Maybe you've done corporate KYC, and you're going to make your accounting, your kind of end of year financials, maybe you're going to make those transparent, and there are no secret entities to hide behind. I don't know what these look like, but this is where it's really exciting, and we can define what happens, because like you said, we're not going to become less accountable. We're only going to become more accountable. And that's just exciting across every single industry. Even when it comes to peer-to-peer lending, if we're doing, you know, when peer-to-peer lending, peer-to-peer finance comes up, you need to make sure that the third party you're dealing with is accountable, and they're reliable, and they're trusted. And at the moment on eBay, all I can gather from, you know, you on eBay is your score. How can I trust those scores? Like Google reviews, you can't trust them. You just can't review these existing rating methods because of anonymized accounts. I personally know someone who has well over 1 million accounts.
That's amazing.
And they may or may not have been involved in things to do with elections, or have been approached to.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that you know someone. I think this industry, everyone knows someone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Certainly when it comes to this new way of using technology, there's not a place for that. And I feel that, you know, blockchain, it just makes it more accountable. It makes decision making easier, more transparent. And essentially, if all of those things are combined, you can actually get fairer and better decisions.
Yeah, and there's some interesting things going around when you mention elections. I know that EOS Venezuela, and possibly, I think maybe it was Guatemala, EOS Venezuela, I believe, told me about it, or Argentina, but they're going to try to do one of the elections and enable blockchain verification of the votes coming up pretty soon. So I should probably touch base with them and see how that's coming along. But
yeah. And that's so I suppose one of the things is, you know, for that, for the intricacy of registering a vote,
mm-hmm.
Is EOS the right blockchain to build something like that on?
Mm-hmm.
I'd say immediately no, because there's the anonymity. I could potentially have however many different anonymous accounts. So there's challenges around voting, certainly for things in the real world, using EOS. Mm-hmm. However, if EOS or Worbli, you know, Worbli has the facility and the capability of doing that, because it's, you know, one user, one account. And verification. Yeah. So there's, you know, I don't need to go down a rabbit hole of what that enables, but it's pretty cool.
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't think of that. Yeah.
And the other thing is around securing the vote on the blockchain. You know, when I vote yes or no, that vote needs to be registered on the blockchain at that moment in time, and it needs to be immutable. Is EOS, Worbli, Ethereum, and Bitcoin, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, are these the right things? Are these the right chains or coins for this specific task? And that's where I think the next wave of finding solutions for whether it's business challenges or whatever it may be, it's about looking outside to all of these really intricate and very specific coins and cryptocurrencies that can provide and perform a very specific action, such as completely immutable. And it's, maybe even that vote is stored on IPFS. There's 1 million copies of your vote on the blockchain. Something I've talked about before. Dominic and I met on the project called Florin Coin. And Flow, I have a feeling in 2014, they actually were used for a libertarian, it might have been in Texas, a libertarian vote back in 2013 or 2014, that they used Flow to register votes on the blockchain. Maybe some of the specific, I'd have to look into the specifics, but it's being done, and voting costs a shitload of money. In Australia, just for I think it was last year, the equality vote for should we allow gay marriage. The Parliament decided that we'd have a plebiscite. The plebiscite meant that every Australian resident was sent, it was a postal vote, so to vote whether we should allow gay marriage or not. $120 million just to perform that vote.
And
it was a shitstorm. It was a vote. It was literally a vote to say and then a vote to say should Parliament discuss it, not should Parliament vote on it. But yeah. So if you think about $120 million for a plebiscite, if it was digitally enabled through a government application or whatever it might be, then you get fined $120, I think, in Australia if you don't vote. So it's just about ease of use. In fact, I'll tell you that I've got my official election guide, and I think the fine's on there. I think it's $80.
Yeah, that seems like it incentivizes uneducated voting. If I was going to get fined and I wasn't educated, I'd be kind of frustrated. I'd bubble it in and send it off.
And do you know what the thing is? And this is, we're going off on a bit of a tangent, but in Australia, my local, kind of voting, whatever you call it, or local area, I remember the last vote, there was 15 candidates, and I had to rate them from 1 to 15 in order of preference.
Fantastic. Wow.
How can you make informed decision making on that? How can it's just daft. It just literally shows that the government is in the prehistoric ages. And possibly it's for a reason. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's impressive. I hadn't heard that. That's amazing. The inefficiencies, I guess, don't really surprise me at this point, though.
So that's where you just look at feature and benefit of blockchain, the cost associated with doing a national election. It just is so in favor of using blockchain technology than existing.
Yeah, well, I mean, the only barrier to that happening is basically adoption, but just and a little bit more tech. But imagine the voting referendum on EOS, coupled with either some sort of very secure identity or with a Worbli model of AML KYC, and you go on and you just use the voting referendum and done. It's almost, the tech's almost there where it's a no-brainer. Then it's just about adoption.
And like you said, it could be using a few different chains for very specific purposes for validation at different stages.
Mm-hmm.
But this is where I feel Worbli are looking at a number of different chains that we can collaborate with, and I just feel it's within everyone's best interest within blockchain, because I'm evangelizing blockchain, right? I want this technology to be utilized in the real world because it provides me with features and benefits that I can't get with, other companies or existing companies. So that's where it's going to be is collaboration and combination of very specific technologies to enable something really powerful and really cost effective. And I tell you, said the challenge around this tech being used and maybe mass adoption. I actually would say we have to also be very realistic and look at why a government or a big business would not use blockchain technology tomorrow if it's a 5 times improvement. It's because they've got existing contracts with existing suppliers, and those contracts could be 3-5 years. And there might be challenges around getting out of those contracts. The other thing, which to be honest, I've heard no one, I mean zero. I've had 3 or 4 conversations about this, but I've heard no one talk about change management. Because we talk about blockchain, banking, car finance, insurance, in music, of course, every single industry. Blockchain is going to replace people. So what's going to happen to these people? And I feel that there's a huge amount of friction within big businesses because, of course, I'm not going to choose blockchain because I don't want to make 10,000 staff redundant. So this is the other big challenge that I feel there needs to be a lot of thinking about, is that transitional period from, Windows 95 to blockchain. Because that's, we've got to look at it like a layperson. And that's really one of the big challenges. That's why banks don't change their technology every 2 years, because they put people around that technology. The people, they make these really slow old technologies work, and replacing them is either, again, it's corporate suicide, political suicide, or, shareholders will go, well, that's high risk, and the stock may dump out of uncertainty. So those are the things that I feel that we don't talk enough about in blockchain. We talk about killing industries and killing big players, but it's not that simple. The technology does kill these big players, but the reason they're not adopting it is, I'd say, because of the amount of knock-on effect. And I don't think it's been truly explored yet.
Yeah, I wonder if there would be, it seems like something like the banking industry or these big industries that aren't necessarily open to change make themselves very fragile because they have it, they're moving so slow to kind of hold the status quo. But at some point that opens the channel for some sort of inflection point where it comes to the point where it's just so obvious that people kind of leave in droves, and it's more of a quicker process than we may expect. And that might not come for, like you said, 20 years, but it seems like it'll be maybe a slow trickle until some point it's going to be a really quick, precipitous change, I think.
I think it's like, it's a little bit like this. I'm a marketer, so I'm looking at it from an acquisition. If we can simplify the comms, make the tech better and more intuitive and even personalized, like at the end of the day, I would like a personalized experience in everything that I do. Maybe that's a little bit weird. Maybe I should have some choice and spontaneity. But that's, when we look at what users want, is they just want a better solution. And if we can communicate that effectively and then provide them with the user journey that provides ease of use, and then the financial benefits such as maybe free transactions or, borderless payments with no third-party fees, that's a reason for someone to try this. And maybe over time, businesses will start adopting this when they can maybe recycle existing staff members. So instead of making redundancies, what I think needs to make a comeback is customer service. 101. The businesses that do the best out there, online mattress provider, the one that has sold the most mattresses, most likely has the best customer service. So think about banks. Imagine if back in the day, my parents, they were friends with the bank manager. We do not have that relationship anymore because it's a commercial entity, and friends with the bank manager means you're giving that bank manager more information so that he can earn more money off of you. Right? So what if we were to have account managers in businesses that we use? And that's where the stickiness comes, because people do business on relationships. Technology is a benefit. Like, I'm starting to move away from Uber because their customer service is diabolical. It's actually probably the shittest in the world, I've got to say. But with the apps that I use regularly. And American Express is probably the best. And that's why I still use American Express, and I'm friendly with them because I get a shitload of points, but also their customer service is on point. And that's what that's where blockchain needs to start focusing on, what it's like for the customers. Do the customers have someone personal on Telegram? I don't know, but they've got a literally customer service account manager 24/7 on Telegram.
Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah. There is quite a dichotomy going with customer service right now, where some companies have gone just above and beyond and doing things that are almost unheard of, and then others are just completely horrible.
What are some good examples that you've seen?
Well, I think Costco in the US, they have like a return policy that's just no questions asked forever. So, forever. Yeah. So there's people that bring back a 7-year-old couch that they've worn out, and they say, you know what, like, this couch is worn out and I'm not happy with it. I expect it to last longer. They give them full cash back, and they say, thanks for shopping at Costco. And there's those stories like that are almost viral, that bring people to, if people make any purchases, they know with no questions back, it's secure, and people make tons of their purchases there.
That's interesting. I'm just trying to quantify how a CF, because as a marketer, marketers usually have to go to the CFO for budget, right? To get budget approved. That as a value proposition as a marketer, that's a dream. That's literally say, come and buy from us, and trust me, if you don't like it in 10 years time, you can bring it back. Yeah. But that's also the reason that works, is because you purchase it, but then it's literally the too hard basket. To take that couch back to Costco, exactly. It's like, that is so much hard work. So they actually will measure maybe 1% of all transactions at Costco get returned. Mm-hmm. It's a customer's choice. It's our choice not to return something. But that's where they can then measure and ascertain, and they can actually, sacrifice profit for better customer experience. And if the cool thing is, if they can justify that decision, that's where it just makes it truly transparent. And there's also trusting that people like us, we don't take the piss. And that's always a challenge, is mitigating the risk around people who do just want to take advantage. I think that's a really interesting example. Yeah.
And actually I sent a message to one of these guys. I was really curious about it. And they said that, or maybe it was on Quora, I asked something like that. But anyway, one of the marketing execs chimed in, and he said, the amount of people who actually bring these things back is negligible. It doesn't really hurt our bottom line. And we totally welcome them bringing back. No one is gaming the system. No one is taking advantage. You guys can do whatever you want, And so they look at it as just a positive marketing and treating the customers well. So
because I suppose if you bought, and this may be where we're getting into the intricacies of it, because I love this idea. I want to know how they can do it effectively. But if I bought a TV 2 years ago for $1,000, the TV I'm coming back to buy at Costco, so I get my $1,000 back. I'll probably use that $1,000 to put it towards a $2,000 TV. So at the same time, it's that acquisition cost and it's the retention cost alongside it. And when averaged out amongst 1,000 customers and $1,000 TV, it's $1 per customer. Yeah.
And actually TVs is a funny one. TVs and computers, within the last few years, they changed that to 90 days specifically for electronics, because there's such a high, at 6 months you can improve them. And so, you could bring back your flat, which a lot of people did, like bring back these flat screens from, 2000, and they're worth $4,000. And all of a sudden you spend $2,000, you get a way better TV plus $2,000 cash.
So they'd literally be giving you the
they were paying you to upgrade your TV for sure. And it was like that was like a big one that I think probably started to go the wrong direction on them a little bit, especially with computers too. And so they changed that, but that's the only one that they specifically, I think, were probably losing money.
See, that's an example of whilst it's perception, the perception of that business is they are giving the consumers the choice to return something.
Mm-hmm.
And it puts them in really good stead as a business. What if they, if the cost is negligible, right? That's what gets me is they're still making a hell of a lot of money, and they're not passing, imagine if they could, 10% of their profits, they could actually distribute back to customers through something. That's obviously what blockchain can enable. But I just think there's a new realm of business coming in the next 3 years where I think the startups that are going to prosper, such as these new digital banks and what have you, if they get customer service right and user experience, then they are legitimate challenges. Because I want something now, I want it good, and I want it to be better.
Mm-hmm.
Like it needs to be, at least two of those. I think it's good, fast, and cheap.
Mm-hmm.
If something's good, fast, and cheap, that's like the economic, golden ticket.
Mm-hmm.
Something can't be good and cheap and be fast. Good and cheap, will take time but if you can get all three, that's when you can achieve a really great growth model opportunity. And blockchain enables businesses to do that, especially if you don't rely on shipping and postage and third parties.
Yeah. I mean, and then on the other end of the spectrum about like the worst customer service is generally with something like a bank. I mean, they have been around so long and are so established. There's almost like a monopoly where they have
complacency.
Complacency. And they're focused on as many profit angles as possible, as opposed to how they're treating the customer. And they've been focused on all these fees and profit models for so long that the customer definitely comes second in that equation. And so that's one that you're talking about. There's some room for a disruption there for sure.
The customer comes second, but the customer is also judged the same as every other customer. Mm-hmm. And I suppose a closing point on that is in the 50s, mutual banks and cooperative banks, kind of community-driven banks in the 1950s. In Australia, from my understanding, they were created to eradicate financial discrimination for women. And because women, when they get pregnant, they can't borrow money because they'll be off work, and there was a lot of uncertainty in the 50s. So community banks were created to provide lending power to women. And that was like one of the big first realms of financial discrimination. I feel today that the financial discrimination that occurs is, small business owners and startups and entrepreneurs, they get shafted by the banks, because they're taking risk. And by taking that risk means that last year's financial statements may be really low. What they don't take into account is futures. They don't take into account forecast revenue, contracts signed, whatever it may be. And as a small business owner, if you can't get a $5,000 or $10,000 loan, just something really, really small, like the banks can literally destroy what you're trying to achieve based on objective decision making, based on pre-existing processes and prerequisites that they have in place. What would be really, really cool is using different identity and subjective credit scoring. Then it provides you the ability to borrow money or do any transaction based on a trust score or an integrity score or an are you good for it score. Basically saying, if I lend you money, will you pay me back? At the moment, small business owners, if they don't have any tax returns or statements to show, so this is certainly in Australia, they're going to know. Mm-hmm. But if they can, what would be amazing is if you can actually demonstrate how this money will be spent, where you're going to be spending it, what kind of return on investment it could achieve. That's what I feel banks could, I suppose they can just benefit from all the amounts of different data points so they can make subjective decisions. And at the moment, not enough subjective decision making is being made when the data is actually there.
Yeah, that's in the vein of unlocking a lot of the human potential that's out there that isn't free
Yeah.
because of the constraints of the banking industry. And that's in line with, in the same way that maybe an entrepreneur who needs a $10,000 loan in the States can't get it. I mean, imagine in Africa where a $10,000 loan, all that's so much potential there that if there were some sort of banking tools, the amount of human potential that could be unlocked could really just drastically shift how the world is evolving. I mean, I think that's one of the most overlooked kind of parts of our future that's coming up here, is unlocking the human potential in Africa through enabling some sort of really easy banking system.
Yeah, you're right. And the thing is I'm sure there's a lot of people who would love to get into peer-to-peer lending. The only challenge is peer-to-peer lending is high risk. If you can understand who you're lending money to, or there's, contracts around how that money gets dispersed and even where it gets spent and even which suppliers that money gets spent with. So if you're applying for $1,000 loan and you're saying, 500 of that is to go for produce or materials, and 500 of that is going to, let's just say, Facebook for Facebook marketing, then, hey, I'm happy to give you $1,000 because you can't go off and spend it on a new hat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're spending it on what, and that's where maybe like trusted escrow contracts,
Yeah.
all of these agreements where money can get released at different stages. It's not built yet, but again, it comes back to what we talked about in the beginning of the interview, is logic. If it's logical and if it kind of makes sense, then hey, it can actually be done. It just takes time.
Yeah, absolutely.
But no, it's good.
Well, this has been a wonderful, far-reaching conversation. I feel like people who listen to this are going to enjoy it. So it's been great. As we kind of start to wind down here, what's next for Worbli, and then anything that we may have kind of overlooked that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, sure. So what's next? So our token sale, as I mentioned earlier, it's live on chainrift.com. We're selling 70 million tokens. So our blockchain launched on the 1st of November. So our token has utility. So developers and DApp developers will have the ability to buy tokens now. And the pricing on that is tiered from 5 cents to 10 cents. So we just ask anyone who puts in buy orders on the exchange, if you put anything above 10 cents, your order might fill and you may pay more than you should have because you made an error. So we just like people to make sure they do their due diligence there. And I'd like to specify, it's not an ICO. This is tokens for sale on an exchange, and after closing that sale, they will be tradable on other exchanges. Which we'll have before the end of the year, a number of exchanges before the end of the year. But I suppose the next key date for us is our portal launches on the 21st of November. We're doing a 1 billion coin share drop, 40% of our total supply for EOS holders. And after the 21st of November, people will be able to create Worbli accounts. They'll be able to verify their accounts and then claim their share drop. And post that, we've got dozens, probably 3 dozen, or just under 3 dozen applications in development at varying levels. Some are at I suppose MVP, blueprint. The logic has been clearly set in stone, and there's been a lot of analysis done on that. And some are at that kind of inception phase, and some are really near to completion. So there's a lot coming up, and it's really exciting that the community, our block producers, our partners, and I suppose supporters around the world, they're actually looking at Worbli and seeing real opportunity to create an app that isn't just, with respect to the dice guys, because I play dice, it's not just rolling dice.
Yeah.
We're looking at apps with more complexity, but essentially more features and benefits which can empower and enable. Unfortunately, we've got a bloody huge audience to talk to, lots of different stakeholders, but that's also a challenge because messages can get diluted. So it's something that we're going to be working towards in the future, is just, really engaging the community and trying to engage different parts of the community with different topics that are actually going to interest them. Like developers, we're going to be doing a lot around education on how to use Worbli, but also, hey, this is the other thing, is when you should use Worbli and when you should use mainnet, or even when you should use another sister chain or side chain. One thing I don't want to do, I don't want to be shoving solutions down your throat which don't fit your needs. And this is the other thing, is we're agnostic. Obviously Worbli first for us, but we will recommend using other chains, other maybe coins or cryptocurrencies to perform specific tasks. So we are agnostic, and hopefully people will, and the community will, see that in our actions over time. But we don't see an application needing to be exclusively launched on Worbli. There's the application is going to have two slightly different features and benefits if it's on Worbli or mainnet. And again, time will tell. But we're truly excited, and we've got some amazing feedback along the way. There's a few people who don't like KYC, AML. Again, we respect that, and they've got 6 months. If they're EOS holders, they've got 6 months to make that decision whether they want to register, verify, and claim their share drop. And hopefully over the next 6 months, for some of those people who are either on the fence or shifting the other side of the fence, say all we need to do is just be authentic and demonstrate that we're doing some really good stuff. And hopefully people will compromise on their views of that over time. But at the same time, if they don't, it doesn't matter to us. We fully respect that.
Yeah. And you made a point about being chain agnostic, and this conversation came up in the last podcast. And so I wanted to ask you too, what's your definition of side chain and sister chain? What would be the difference between those two?
So my hopefully articulate way of describing them, Thomas Cox actually did it brilliantly, I think, in a few months ago. But a sister chain, the way I describe it is you've got mainnet here, and mainnet uses EOS.io code. What Worbli have done, it was initially called a soft fork or a software fork. We have literally picked up that code and we built a new ecosystem in which that code operates. So we're called a sister chain. It means that our rules, our token, our constitution, even the way our block producers are selected, and how much rewards they get in the inflation, for us to make all of these changes, that's a sister chain. It has to be a sister chain. A side chain would be a chain that operates. Maybe let's just say it breathes the same oxygen and has the same blood as the main chain. So it's using the block producers. It's leveraging the same block producers, same voting, same constitution. I suppose that's it. A side chain is kind of trying to think of a way to put an analogy around it. How would you put an analogy around it?
Well, I'm not sure about an analogy. Maybe I can make one up on the fly here. But
go for it.
Stinger left me this side chain was one that this Stinger is someone who commented in the comments.
Cool.
The side chain interacts with the main chain through inter-blockchain communication, provides utility to the main chain users, but runs on the side to save network resources, CPU, net, RAM. So
I suppose that could be a way of describing it. The other thing you're talking about, IBC, whilst a sister chain, whilst it's got its own ecosystem, its own oxygen, its own air, with IBC, inter-blockchain communication, that's going to enable Worbli to talk directly with mainnet. So it's not there yet, and I know it's on it's on the roadmap for us, and we've got a team working towards that. But it's also on the roadmap for Block One and a number of people within the EOS community. If Worbli can be one of the first to benefit from IBC and same with mainnet, then it's just going to be really, really exciting for how chains in the future benefit from this. And possibly IBC will actually open up a load of opportunities we don't even know about yet.
Yeah.
And that's again, what's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I think that people worry that sister chains are going to not provide utility to the main chain. But with inter-blockchain communication, like a big utility that something like Worbli would offer is this on-ramping of fiat into the system,
Absolutely.
On-ramping of users. So with inter-blockchain communication, when that comes, they start to share more of the same air, let's say, in that analogy. So
yeah, I feel that's a good way of saying it. If Worbli, or let me just say when Worbli have this fiat on off-ramp custodian wallets, users can have benefit from these services, but then still interact directly with mainnet. The intricacies around how that happens, I wish I could tell you. I'm sure if you can get Dan Larimer and on the phone with some of the key devs, so they may have some secrets to tell on IBC. But I know we are very much down that rabbit hole, because we know it adds value to our users, because our users are EOS. The majority of our users have come from mainnet, and that's also where the share drop is an integral part to that. We want to fairly incentivize people to come over to Worbli and use it in tandem with other chains. And again, we expect to have share drops, air grabs, on the Worbli network as well, which is really exciting. But it's important that we do them right. A lot of airdrops have been spam. They've been a waste of money. There's a lot of dust out there, and they haven't been used and executed well enough. That's why we didn't opt for an airdrop or an air grab in this instance. We've changed it around for the share drop, which a lot of people know about. But we want to just try and set a standard for token distribution in the future, because there's science around it, and there's going to be a lot of analytics that we can see what works and what doesn't. So continuous improvement is required.
Can you explain how the Worbli is doing the share drop? And
yeah, sure.
Is there a portion that is delivered via airdrop, and then a part that's delivered after AML?
No,
how does that work?
Yeah, it's something in the early days around hypothesizing how the share drop would be distributed. Where to get your share drop, you need a verified Worbli account. We had to draw the line, and we drew that line probably, I'd say, a few months ago, where users had to be verified to get their share drop. Okay. And for that, initially we had planned to say 15% of or 10 or 15% of the tokens would be, you didn't have to verify your account to get hold of those. But it actually contradicts and is counterintuitive to what Worbli wants to achieve. To use the tokens, you will need to have a verified account. So yeah. That's the process there. So what people are going to be getting is 70% of their tokens on verification of their accounts, and that's gone from 15% to 70, was 50% to 70%. It's 70% because we know that we are asking you to do something that involves personal data, and we feel that's a fair value exchange. For those that don't do it. And the other 30% is actually going to be used at our discretion over the coming 6 months. We've got an escrowed in contract, and one example of something I'd like to do is, and again, I'm going to be consulting and talking to key community figures and community members to see how we do it. But I'd like to do a friend. How we talked earlier, the friend get friend. I'd love to say, refer a friend, and when that friend signs up, they get 5% of your share drop, and you get a 5% of your share drop. What could be really cool? And there's some scenarios where, let's just say you're a whale, you've got 1 million EOS. that 5% of your million EOS could be 50,000 WBI tokens.
That'd be nice to go around, drop on all your family, huh?
Or just one family member who could then share it with others. But I just feel there's an opportunity to incentivizes people to recruit someone who may not, have been in this crypto and blockchain world before, and it can open up again opportunities. But there could be some cool stories off the back of it as well, because I don't know what our token price will be in 6 months, but 50,000 WBI could be a nice dinner.
Yeah, for sure. That's a cool idea. I agree with that on two levels, and I'm glad you guys put so much thought into this. And one is just kind of the game theory aspect of, if you're just giving away these tokens, I mean, to people who aren't necessarily users or supporters, and they don't have any skin in the game, you're basically just asking to get dumped on. I mean, what's the incentive for these people who aren't interactive in the community to hold use
the tokens as they're supposed to be used, and
exactly.
and on that, those who don't claim. And any tokens after I think we've put a 6-month time limit on. I'll confirm to the community, and we will confirm as well as Worbli as a foundation in the coming weeks around when those tokens that are unclaimed, when they will be burnt, because they will be burnt. There's a billion tokens there, and if 700 million are claimed, 300 million will be burnt.
Nice.
And that's again giving people. I think it's fair to give someone a date that they need to make a decision on.
Yeah.
So there's a number of initiatives, but I suppose the thing is, Worbli do not, unlike PayPal, where I think it was give $10 to get $10. We don't have, tens and tens of millions of dollars to give away willy-nilly like PayPal did. So I can't remember how much fundraising they had in order to do that, but I think that's what made them raise money a number of different times, because it's that customer acquisition cost. If Worbli can use our tokens to achieve a similar result, then I think that's brilliant. Nothing like this initiative Q shit, where it's that's spammy, and even the wording they're using is manipulative. It's lying. It's a shame, because so many of my friends who say crypto's a scam, they're sharing this initiative Q rubbish around, and unfortunately they're using a good mechanic. I'm not going to lie, it's very, very clever, but when you look at the terms and conditions, you can see they're selling that data onto third parties. And I think I put in an email address I saw it like 4 months ago, maybe 3-4 months ago, and I think I put an email address down, and to be honest, ever since I've been getting spam calls and emails. So
yeah, that's too bad.
We're just trying to do it really authentically and to be true to our word. And I think you'll probably see that within our community. We have a few naysayers, which is cool, but we generally have a pretty productive and constructive community, which is really exciting, and it's really good to have. And thank God we've also got a Korean and Chinese community team working with us as well, because the demand in our Asian countries is fantastic. So yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, if you don't have naysayers, then you're not trying hard enough, So that's actually kind of a good sign. The other part of that I like of your airdrop is that you're moving slow with the other 30%, because the way we've seen airdrops evolve over the last just 6 months has been, this year, how airdrops has evolved has been just leaps and bounds. You get to see so many things get tried. So the longer you can kind of put off having to implement some sort of strategy, the better it's going to be for the community, because you can implement the right one that's well thought out. So
hell yeah. And like, hey, those share drop recipients, maybe I could be peer pressured to do a nice Christmas Day share drop.
There you go.
But this is the kind of thing that I think it enables us to. Maybe we would support an application, a wallet or something. Like, what's stopping me from saying download the wallet and release another 5% of your share drop? At the end of the day, marketing, people don't do shit for free.
Mm-hmm.
Like we just know that to get you into 7-Eleven to get a Slurpee, they've got to put all these funny little games, to make it fun for you to buy a Slurpee. So at the end of we have to use similar tactics, and it's something that I'll be, I suppose, asking other applications and dApps and products to think about, because that's how you get people using them. Is you make it fun, you make it rewarding, and you make it fair. At the end of the day, if I'm asking you to download an app, if I can give you 5% share drop to get you to do it, I think that is truly fair, because alternatively, I might have to pay Facebook $4.50 to get you to download an app, like through advertising metrics. And yeah, it's just us being smart, but it's also us trying to build a community of people who want to use the token, and people who will use the token, and people who will stay around. We understand people will drop off, but maybe this is an opportunity to re-engage with them in 4 or 5 months' time to say, hey, Worbli is still here and we're doing quite well. And here's 25 different apps that you now have access to and can use.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, that's refreshing to hear. I think one of the biggest things missing in the blockchain space is a focus on marketing and getting to the regular people. So hopefully you can also push that forward. I mean, so many.
I suppose good marketing. There's a lot of marketing, and there's a lot of noise. But is it authentic? Is it true? Justin from Tron loves his marketing is his Twitter.
Yeah.
Dominic and me and Craig and Rob and the team, that's irresponsible. And it's just something. It's businesses have false starts, they have delays, they have challenges, but being so obnoxious and obvious of pumping a price that's just bad marketing. And we're again evangelizing good marketing and good business practice.
Well, it's short term and short-sighted marketing, whereas it sounds like what professional marketing is building this long-term relationship of trust and incentives. And, if I do this, I continuously have gotten something in return, and they've kept their promises. Building those relationships is good marketing. And it's like you said, the marketing out there is kind of amateur and short-sighted and pumping, and it's been garbage so far.
A lot of hype. If we were to go down that route, this 1.5 hour chat, and we've gone on for a while, but sod it, I like talking, and it's interesting. I'm learning some stuff as well. If we were to go hard on it, I could have 10 different of these applications in development. And I could literally, if I was being unethical, we'd have press releases on every single one of them already. We'd have work for, MVPs of user workflows on a PDF. And it's just not representative of what's true. And a lot of businesses out there they're very good at graphic design. They're very good at, putting out posts with viral characteristics. But like you said, is Initiative Q going to be here in 12 months' time, or is it just going to be the same as BitConnect and all of that other, rubbish? What it comes down to is authenticity. If you are authentic and true to yourself and your community, then when you do release news, it's actually meaningful. And again, that's certainly something that we've been, I suppose, that we as a team have built over the past six months is, let's just put out stories that are true to us. At the beginning, they were getting 10, 15 views, back in March, and it was probably my mum and dad. But now, we are literally increasing. I think we've had a 150% increase in Medium views. Our Twitter impressions are through the roof. And again, it's a slow game. Like we've been working at it for 6 to 9 months. For the first 4, 5, 6 months, I think we were completely and utterly bootstrapped. So we are here with the right intentions of building a product that works, that scales, and when there's more users and more memory being required, the token only has one place to go, and it will increase in value. And that's the only way that we as a team are incentivized, is to actually provide tangible outcomes. And we can't provide tangible outcomes if it's all hot air and all hypotheticals. So the next 6 months for us is about delivering. The next 3 months for us is again, I think 3 to 6 months is all about delivery and demonstrating to users that we're here, we're building stuff. We didn't raise $100 million in an ICO, and we aren't responsible to investors. So at the same time, there's just got to be, that's probably the other just problem with crypto, is community having too much of a say. And I'm not against that, but it's unproductive. Like, you can't get shit done when there's 100 chefs in the kitchen. Like, it's, that phrase doesn't, or whatever the phrase is, too many chefs in the kitchen. That doesn't exist for no reason. And that's also why Worbli are taking a centralized approach to early decision making, basically. So in 2 years' time, we can enable community to make all the decisions, but the foundations were built on concrete, not on sand.
And that's kind of the approach that I think that Block One took before launch. I mean, they built everything in a centralized way and then released it to the community. And so, is that the game plan? Is that 2 years kind of a hard date? Is there kind of a roadmap for that, or is that something that's going to be determined as the relinquishing of the decision making to the community?
So in our white paper, in the way we discuss as an executive, as a leadership team, and with our team, it's a 2 year window to transfer from a centralized / permissioned and private blockchain and or buzzword bingo. They're getting all on top of me. But the idea is that over 2 years we will become decentralized. We're already Worbli as a foundation out of Singapore. So the executive team and the executive team will eventually be re-voted in by the board in what we're say 2 years time, and that board could essentially be determined by the community. Okay. So there's going to be different levels of kind of autonomy that we have, but I think it's just fair to say that my job is not secure in 2 years' time. If I'm doing a good job as with Worbli, I would hope to be voted in. But if the community decide to vote me out, or Dominic or Craig or a board member, then the idea is community have those decision-making authority. The challenge is immediately there is nothing written in company law that actually enables that. So there's a lot of new things that we need to create over time to enable this reality to come true. And it is again, it's all logical. It just takes time.
So is the concept that the community has a vote over the board members, and then do the board members still have control over the block producers, or how's that part look?
That's a question for Dominic. Okay. Certainly when it comes to the intricacies, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to be wrong. Yeah. But along those lines, Dominic can certainly talk to it. We'll get you on a call with Dominic soon, and he can talk around some of those intricacies. But yeah, that's the idea, is that the community who hold tokens, they have a say somehow in Worbli, and all of those features and how that happens is going to be built and developed over time. But it's our philosophy. Right, this is what we've set out to do, and we do not want to compromise and in 2 years' time be a centralized organization. Because I don't want to be part of a centralized organization like that. I think it goes against my philosophy, Worbli's philosophy, but also the mission that we set out to try and achieve. What we, with a centralized authority like that, it really depends who the CEO is. It really depends who the board is, and at the moment, we are all aligned on what success looks like. And, I think that's the most important thing, is we just deliver for ourselves first, and the business first, and the developers. And then we deliver for the users and community. And the reason I'm saying developers first is otherwise we've got nothing to talk to the community about. There won't be anything for the community if we don't have developers from all parts of the world, creating solutions for audiences that they know best.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be an exciting transition, is bringing more developers into the space. I mean that's a huge need right now. So
yeah, and I'll tell you what, I think the hackathons that Block One have been putting on,
big time.
They're fantastic, and they also, the most exciting thing is I've been to 2 hackathons. The team in the States are at the one in San Francisco. I know Dom spent some time with Dan, the Block One guys, and a number of our block producers, but he's so enthused around the minds who are involved in this space, and the different way of thinking, just a different perspective on logic and incentivization and compromise and value exchange. So I feel developers who are developing in blockchain at the moment are really going to, the next 12 months, there's going to be some really cool stuff coming out which we can use and probably incorporate into our day-to-day lives. Just right now, there's dice, there's some cool games, there's some cool gambling applications which if you want to dabble in, great. But when it comes to kind of payment processing, payroll, all of these things which will just make our lives easier in work and in life, they're not there yet. And that's what I'm excited about, is because I'm seeing a lot of awesome ideas being developed by devs and BPs and teams around the world.
Yeah, and Block One's been moving at such a quick clip lately. I mean, just the whole time, really. And the few announcements that they've been hinting at are exciting. And so I'm excited to see within the next, I would say, first quarter of next year, some sort of really interesting announcements coming from Block One. So yeah, that should be fun.
I know Brendan's been doing some really good media, and I think it's really good. He's dispelling some myths. Mm-hmm. He's quashing some claims which are really interesting. If you were to look at the claim independently, this crap around that Consensus has commissioned a report on EOS. It's like, okay, Consensus has commissioned a report. That's like Coke commissioning a report on why Pepsi is not very good for you. It's just not trustworthy. There's no the accountability on it. Again, it comes to the accountability. In what scenarios did they test the infrastructure? And like, I don't know. But yeah, there's a lot of really exciting things to come, and I do think the community and users of cryptocurrency are becoming smarter, and they're demanding better. Mm-hmm. So as long as we can meet and exceed those demands, as well as what Block One are doing with their initiatives and other chains are doing with their initiatives, if we can just keep exceeding demands of users and ticking boxes, then organic word of mouth will just start happening. Yeah. And when organic word of mouth starts happening, and I'll mention EOS links again, a lot of what they've done is organic. They haven't spent, from my understanding, they haven't been sponsoring posts on Facebook. They haven't been advertising. They've just been providing just a really simple, nice UX, mm-hmm. A wallet that provides great functionality. And if we can have more wallets catering for individual needs, that's where personalization. It's not hard to create a wallet. I say it's not hard to create a wallet, but if the hard factor is the code, the underlying code, which makes that wallet secure, stable. But if that wallet can be created and personalized on the front end, even if it's just changing the color of the homepage of where your account balance is at, or if you could have a Man United logo versus Golden State Warrior logo, that just makes it mine. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I feel there's a lot of apps out there who are doing organic well, but it's a transition into paid acquisition, which is actually going to probably make some businesses go bust, because it's easy to spend money in marketing and have no idea what you're doing. It's so easy. Mm-hmm. So hopefully, I'd be keen to anyone who wants to talk marketing. I'd be really keen to help, because I just want to evangelize around just generally doing marketing better, and maybe just having a different perspective before determining how you're going to do an airdrop, share drop, giveaways, promotions, whatever it might be. And that's something I'm really passionate about as well myself.
Well, I'm actually headed into San Francisco tomorrow morning. We have a meeting. We're starting a DApp incubator at Starfish, the blockchain workspace there, which is a really cool workspace. But I might hit you up at some point and ask for some marketing advice for some of these new dApps that are launching.
No, 100%. I actually, we've taken some office space at Stone and Chalk, a fintech hub, blockchain center in Melbourne, which is a huge building. There's a lot of amazing businesses within there, and it's something I said to them is what I'd like to do is a fortnightly roundtable with people in the industry, and just talking about what worked, what didn't, what could be done better. Okay, you're in crypto as well. Mm-hmm. Do you want people to know the word crypto? Is it essential that they know you are a crypto product? Mm-hmm. If it's not essential, let's eradicate all of these challenging, this terminology which may put people off. Private key, public key, all of these words which may just make people feel uncertain or insecure. So I'm really keen to advocate different ways of doing it. I'm not saying my way or our way is the best way, but it's a different perspective, and sod it. Let's just see if Worbli works. Then, Dominic, myself and the team can look back and pat ourselves on the back, because we have taken a very different approach to the majority of blockchain ICOs and what have you out there. I hate the word ICO. I want an ICO I want it to be rid of, because no business should have the authority or the ability to raise $50 million up front on a white paper. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And a few influencers and ambassadors who are on that white paper who are shills, or they're people who are, they've got a big community and can influence. I've got no problem with influencers, people on white papers, but as long as the money is raised in a fair and secure way. Again, it comes down to, potentially even using escrow contracts and how fundraised money is released to businesses over time. So investors or people who are putting money into projects like an ICO, how they can be sure that if these guys fail after 2 months, that they can get 80% of their initial investment back. Like, this is a new standard that I feel, there's a lot of talk on stable coins and security tokens. Personally, that's all cool. It's all good and well. But firstly, we need to manage how wealth and money gets into this industry securely, because there's been way too many scams, way too many hacks, and way too many bad actors taking advantage of private keys, public keys, and the confusing status of blockchain as it is today. So that's I think another really interesting evolution. And I know we're digressing, so you probably have to cut some of this, because there's
oh well, no, there's not much cutting that goes on in my podcast. Only if the audio cuts out, or something, if something happens. So I think people who listen to that, I'm an advocate of the old way of learning around campfires. People are used to sitting around talking and taking in information long form. I think that it's a refreshing way to do it, especially with the podcast now, where people can listen in their car, listen while they're making dinner and things like that. I personally love podcasts, and I think it's a kind of an underutilized way to learn. It's one of my favorite ways to learn. So, and I like stuff that's real and unedited,
One of the podcasts, my partner Laura, who's also Laura's one of the marketing team on Worbli as well. So it helps that we can talk not only blockchain but marketing and blockchain, every single day, which is amazing. But she listens to I think it's called Business Wars, the Business Wars podcasts. Okay. I would pull it up, but I'm not very good with podcasts at the moment, but that's something we listen to regularly. And just an example of it's like an eight episodes in a series, and it talks about Netflix versus Blockbuster. It talks about the whole journey and how Blockbuster used to send people into the Netflix warehouses to see how they operated, how they could be efficient. They also talk about Nike and Adidas. What is it? The Adi and Das brother, or whatever it is.
Adi Dassler, yeah.
And Adi Dassler, but also his brother went on to Puma.
Okay. Oh, did he? I didn't know that.
I didn't know that, but obviously within the kind of the 40s or whatever it was when the war was, the brothers had a falling out and ended up going to create Puma.
How funny.
But another one was around, it was PayPal and whoever PayPal were replacing. I want to say Netscape, but I can't actually. I can't remember. I've listened to the majority of that, but it actually talks about, PayPal, give $10, get $10, their acquisition strategy. And I feel that's a really good podcast to listen to, because it gives you context of how a new business with a new way of thinking takes over the incumbent. Where is Blockbuster now? Netflix is, if you listen to the story, it's amazing. But, Blockbuster are nowhere to be seen because of their mindset. They weren't open to innovation. And they weren't maybe taking as many risks as they should, and they weren't using the data. So that's a really, really good podcast to listen to.
That's great. I wrote it down, and I'm sure I will definitely check that out. It's almost like these bigger businesses shift from wanting to be innovators to wanting to protect what they have and keep things the norm. And when they do that, they get passed up or outmaneuvered. Whereas, something like Apple or Amazon, they have they're constantly trying to have these crazy ideas that are the future. And those are kind of the ones that end up keeping pace. But yeah.
But it's also if you think about it from a customer perspective, what would you prefer? Would you prefer to be a Nokia or I just laugh, a Nokia or I was going to say Apple, but then BlackBerry? Which one would you choose? I would immediately choose BlackBerry, because I think they've got potential for much more innovation. Because I've seen how Nokia it's a boring brand now. They failed. But when you look at Nokia and Apple, you're obviously going to choose Apple because there's intrigue. Right? It's
magic,
the intrigue. It's the wanting to be a part of something where you're not sure what's going to be next. Whereas Nokia is kind of predictable, or a bank. Oh, it's predictable. Oh, a lower home loan interest rate. It's probably a higher home loan interest rate that we could get excited about. And that's it. If you can provide your users with a vision, but also not a full vision where they can use their own imagination and shape it, that's what's really clever. And Apple, I'm not sure if you saw in their most recent, I think it was for the X, they did, their TVCs were, they got members of the public to come and talk about the new Apple X, and there was a podium. There wasn't a phone. I've got Samsung. There wasn't a phone on the podium. There was nothing. And they said, imagine you got the new Apple X. Tell us your reaction. Genius. Because someone's like, I got this new phone, the best phone in the world. They're literally talking about something completely hypothetical.
The story, huh?
And I think that's, again, it's something that if we can take some of these marketing effectiveness methods and ways of attributing success to effectiveness, that's, if we can take what the real world, what these big businesses are doing, that we see every day, and we can incorporate some of these tactics into blockchain, then again, it's signs for success. I've not seen a blockchain business yet, outside of, the music industry in blockchain. I've not seen anyone use Instagram very well. If I'm going to invest some time over the next 3 months to try and understand how we can utilize Instagram. And I think if someone can master that sooner rather than later, then they will benefit, because people use Instagram.
It seems like the right demographic. Is it? Would you say that?
Absolutely. There's the millennial demographic for Instagram. Facebook is actually becoming older. If you ask a 14-year-old about Facebook, they'll likely say, why are you on that? My dad's on that. So this is the thing. Facebook is good for, I think, 20 to 50-year-olds. But when we look at the the demographic and socioeconomic profiles of people who are more likely to trial blockchain is people like me, who I'm a millennial. I'm still just in the millennial bracket. People like me who take risk. You know, I was on MSN Messenger, I think, when I was 13 or 14 or something, and I'm used to technology. I'm used to taking risks with new things. The younger class, you know, the 14 to, or even, I say, as dreadful as it is, 10-year-olds all have their own mobile phones these days, which I think is bad parenting. But I'm not a parent, so I can I can make those comments. But it's like, how do we engage with these users? Snapchat, Instagram, plus all of these other apps that I probably don't. I know Musical.ly is another one, but there's all of these apps that you and I don't have a clue about. That maybe we need to start looking at how we leverage them, because that is, again, mass adoption. If we can get on the radar of a 22-year-old college student who loves banking or insurance or innovation, maybe Instagram is a way to start educating them and start engaging them. And then Instagram goes to website goes to email, and then all of a sudden they're reading white papers, they're educating themselves. So it's looking at, you know, how we do that. And I think Instagram does have a role to play, but it's just a low priority because it's not proven. If you see anyone who's doing it well, I think it would be cool to share.
I haven't, but I'll keep my eyes out. And I'm on Instagram, but I don't post on Instagram. I just, I'm connected with some of my friends that I want to follow and some things I'm interested in. So I'm familiar, but I haven't utilized it even myself much. But yeah, it does seem like a good tool. And the point that the millennials seems like the clear generation that's going to adopt this. They're the ones adopting new technology and pushing the envelope right now. So,
yeah, that's right. It comes down to, can I understand it? Can I use it? What's the benefit for me? You know, putting in the time to understanding and using it. Like, I think it's relatively simple right now. We can get a couple of years time, you know, marketers can be really, really smart. They'll probably be using blockchain. I would love to start using blockchain for advertising. So if there's any like blockchain advertising networks out there that want to talk to potential clients, I'd consider it, because, you know, ad fraud in the marketing world, you know, if you Google Amazon, you know, Amazon will come up at the top of Google as a sponsored post. They might be paying $10, $20, $50 for you just to click on that page. So they have fake clickers all the time. So there's so much ad fraud out there. And blockchain's an amazing solution for ad fraud. You know who clicked on your ad, and I think that will improve marketing efficiency and efficacy in the future as well. So there's some really cool platforms that I'd be really keen to trial as well as a blockchain business, but also as a blockchain marketer. I'd like to look at different solutions.
Yeah, that'll be a huge solution there. Absolutely.
I know it's being built, and I know a lot of big media agencies around the world would use it. It's just they wouldn't, you know, spend $100 million a year through it at the moment because the reach will be minimal. So it's about having these services integrated with big publishers around the world. And if publishers say no to using it, you could potentially say to that publisher, why do you not want to be transparent? Probably because they make a lot of their revenue off bot traffic and fake traffic. And that, to be honest, why I don't spend money on anything marketing related to do with, you know, third-party crypto publications, is because it's easy to buy traffic to increase the amount of, you know, you perceive how busy your website is. The amount of times I get emails saying, Worbli, we'd love to list Worbli as a top 20 solutions provider for 2019. We want to give you this award. And it's like, oh, brilliant, an award. And then you just know the tagline. It's, please send $5,000 to this publication and we'll feature you in the magazine. They might have a magazine, but they might literally put it on doctors' waiting tables. And this is a crap that that unfortunately a lot of people in blockchain have to deal with. You know.
Yeah, it's a brave new world out there, and there's a lot that everyone needs to sort through. I mean, it's funny that it's so new that there's not even that many marketers here yet that are kind of haven't jumped on it. I mean, there's a lot of people who haven't realized blockchain's even available. But as we get the network effect, it's going to start to change fairly quickly.
Yeah, and do you know why? Marketers are like the transition into, you know, for me to be able to have the knowledge I do within blockchain, but also be able to take this knowledge and try and communicate it to a number of different audiences as a marketer. It's taken 12 months of, and I mean, not just serious reading, but it's questions. It's understanding the answers in context for me, for my two ears, because context for me may be different for you. And educating marketers on what blockchain is, what its features and benefits are, what Worbli is, what our features and benefits are compared to other chains and other products is hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of really good marketers, and I'm, you know, really good marketers across the board who just look at blockchain and go, it's too much for me to try and learn, when I'm also dealing with marketing technology that is evolving every single day. Facebook's algorithms, Google's algorithms, they're changing every day. You know, those are the challenges that marketers need to deal with to execute upon their role. So to actually then learn about all the intricacies around this is it required? Probably not. But I think some marketers need to know literally the nitty gritty detail. Does my partner, Laura, does she know about all the intricacies around blockchain? No. But what's important is she understands what it can achieve, and she can look at it from a layperson's perspective and also ask me questions. And that's what I think is really exciting. The next 12 months, we will see a lot more educated people talking about blockchain in context and properly. We're not going to be talking about using Bitcoin to buy a coffee. You wouldn't use a Bitcoin to buy coffee.
Yeah.
And this is just really simple features and benefits, right? But it's so easy for a marketer to go out there and say, my product's the next best thing. You're going to use our product to use Bitcoin to buy coffee. And then all of us, you know, all the people in industry who understand the tech are going to go, that's stupid. Like, you know, Craig Wright, he's trying to make, what is he trying to do? They're trying to make Bitcoin Cash the next, I don't know what's going on there, but the way they talk about it, it's just not realistic. It's not.
Yeah. It is. It's silly. I tried to catch up on a little bit of that today. I was like, I got other stuff to study. So
yeah, and it doesn't do this market. It's already confusing enough. So if this scenario is confusing people who have been in the industry for years, you know, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, I just think it's counterintuitive. They're just egos. They're playing for money, filling their pockets, and maybe one of them is Satoshi. I've got no idea, but if they are, no one will respect Satoshi.
Yeah, hopefully no one ever really finds out who Satoshi is, if that's the case. Huh?
Yeah, I know. But hey, Craig Wright is Australian, so let me go out looking for him. He's somewhere here.
That's great. Well, I think that we've covered a lot. It's been a fantastic talk here. This has been great. It's and I think a little bit of something for everyone. I do these podcasts so that people, I like to learn, and so I just ask questions and try to learn. And so I feel like I learned a bunch during this. So I think people who listened probably did. Where can people find you on the socials, or what's the best place to look into Worbli, or what's your ask of the audience out there?
Yeah, so best place will be worbli.io. So www.worbli, WORBLI.io for those on podcasts who might have a pen and paper handy.
I'll put it in
but otherwise, our community is really strong on Telegram, and that's at Worbli Community. But also the main place, if you want to keep up to date with, I suppose, news, is the way we would distribute news will be Telegram and Medium. And generally at the moment, our process is, for communities through Asia, China, Korea, Japan, we do have dedicated community channels there. And from my understanding, I saw yesterday, I think we're creating Spanish and Italian community channels as well in the future as well. So we don't want to have a one size fits all. We do want to try and tailor. But if you just Google Worbli, you'll find a fairly decent amount on us. But we do have a new website launching on the 21st, the portal, which will be available, as I said, with the share drop, to claim your share drop. But yeah, there's a lot going, and we're just excited to bring this to market after a long time of hard work and sleepless nights.
Yeah, it's going to be a beautiful thing as it evolves here. And of course, I'll have you guys back on as things continue to develop. I think I've had Dominic on twice, one maybe even somewhere around mainnet launch, and then one a couple of months ago. And then this is the third time Worbli's been on here. It's always an interesting talk. I talked to EOS today. This is for the podcast listeners. Who did you speak to at EOS? I spoke to
Ben. Do you talk to
Jess?
Ben?
I spoke to Jess and she was really interesting talk. It was just a no video, so that will be exclusively listed in the podcast. It won't be on YouTube. So the reason I'm mentioning it, because if you're watching this and you don't see the interview with EOS and Jess pop up, it's because it's exclusively in the podcast. So check out the podcast section and hear what EOS has got to offer. It was really cool.
I met Jess in London at the hackathon in London, and also Ben Sigmund as well. And obviously after the hackathon they released, was it EOS 21?
No, it's the EOS 21 protocol.
So
the teleportation thing, yeah,
and that that's a great advancement in tech, and it's a relatively first iteration, so it'll be really exciting to see how that evolves over time. And she also have had some really, really good feedback in the community, and again, it's just a good block producer doing good work for the community, and I think that's admirable, considering there are a lot of uncertain actors in the space, and it's really good to see some tangible outcomes coming from the BPs. And the EOS team they're very well respected.
Yeah, absolutely. And they were at the San Francisco hackathon as well, and they had events before the hackathon. They had an event in Oakland where I think they were doing like a boot camp teaching people how to code on EOS, and then the day after they threw it was the World EOS Tour or something like that, but another big meetup and educational things. So they were moving, they do a lot of work. Even when they're at hackathons, they've got events tagged on. And so, it was cool to get to see them and how much work they're putting in.
No, that's cool. I'm sure there's a number of other BPs across the world that are doing some pretty exciting things. I know we're working with a number of different block producer teams as well on development of products and applications. So there's just a really, really great opportunity. And I think there's also great hunger for these block producers. The ones, I'd say the authentic ones, they know that they must deliver value to drive results for themselves. So I just feel it's a really good environment to be a part of. But also you're at the forefront of some really cool technological evolutions and some progress being made there. So it's just great to see firsthand it all come to fruition.
Yep. Get to meet all these innovators and, at the very beginning, hear them talking about big ideas, and then
I know.
Can't wait to see what happens. So,
no, brilliant. Well, no, thanks ever so much for having me on, mate. And I think, if there's, we can certainly keep it tighter next time around, and maybe, hey, we can do some hyper focused marketing related educational stuff for your users. And I'm pretty open. I can talk about a number of topics. I could talk for another 3 hours, but I think that's probably half of my problem.
Well, no, this was a nice, interesting talk, and people do appreciate these long talks. I know, because I listen to long talks podcasts all day, and sometimes takes me 3 days to listen to them, but I still listen to them. So the length, I don't think, is an issue. Just gives people content. So thank you so much for coming on, Sam. Absolute pleasure. We'll have you on again. And thank you for listening to the EOS podcast. This is a long one, so this is a perfect example of why you should be listening to the podcast version and not the YouTube version, the EOS podcast. My EOS friends, it's a pleasure to have you on, Sam. Have a good day.
Nice one. Thanks ever so much. Cheers, Brandon.
Cheers.
The money is not the prime asset in life. Time is, and your time is just